Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner, the second team leader, Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So we jump on here every Wednesday, kind of give a rundown what's going on in the real estate market over the last week or so, and kind of give you what we've seen, just going through the market. So we usually do a quick tip, but we had a comment on our video last week. Basically, I had a question on it. So we talked about property disclosure, seller property condition disclosure statement last week. So we had a question on there. So if something's not disclosed, that you find wrong with the house, such as water damage, is the seller responsible to fix it, or is it worked into the offer from the buyer? So basically, it kind of just depends on that question, depends on where, in the process that you are of you finding anything that the seller may or may not have disclosed. If the seller does not know about it, then you just, say if you're looking at the house before you write the contract, you as an agent or the buyer, you discover something, you can make your offer accordingly. So let's say you have a water damage or you find something like that. Ultimately, me as an agent, I would contact that seller's agent and say, hey, is this something your seller's aware of? Or, what's the story with it? Get an explanation from it. Maybe they may not have checkboxed something on the disclosure, get that clarification from them, and then make your offer accordingly, or, talk to the seller, and go from there. If it shows up like on a home inspection item, like same kind of thing with walking through the house. If you see that come up on a home inspection, when you do a home inspection, you basically have three options. You can accept the house as is. You can ask the seller to make any repairs or anything to that sort of concessions, or you can walk away from the contract based on the findings of that home inspection. So, in that manner, you kind of negotiate it in that sense. If it happens after closing, that's essentially, us as agents, we can only help up to a certain point once it's outside of the representation side of it. So essentially at that point, I would recommend for any of my clients to contact a real estate attorney. If something happens in that, I'm going to help you to the best of my abilities within the legal limits that I can help you. But ultimately it comes down to, if you have to have proof that the, seller knew about it, didn't disclose it, tried to hide it. I did have this as an instance in one of my transactions a while ago. Basically, there was a water damage or water that was coming into the basement. Seller didn't really necessarily disclose it fully. And literally, we closed the house on Friday. Friday night, we had like a 3-inch rain, and there was water just streaming. Luckily, the basement was unfinished. In the basement, my client called me. He's like, "Hey, Mark, what's going on?" And in that sense, we called some of the local or the buyer or my client called a couple of the foundation companies, found out, and the neighbor even told them, hey, there's a basement person here that was a couple months ago. Called that company. They actually had an estimate of about $5,000 to fix the issue. Seller never did that, never disclosed that. And essentially, the buyer, my client, contacted the seller and just said that, hey, fix it. And, essentially that's what happened. So, those types of things. So you have to be able to show that proof. So I guess my daughter wants to make a cameo production or appearance here. Say hi. Oh, you're not going to show up. Maybe you are. There you are. Okay. Daddy's got to finish talking. Okay. Oh, just a second. Oh, I know. You can stand right there. So yeah, so in that sense, after the closing, necessarily he had an attorney write a letter to the seller, got that taken care of. Please don't. So as we go through here, so yeah, so let's jump in and take a look at what's going on in the real estate market here over the last week. Let me share it here. So over the last week, we had 520 new listings go live in the last 7 days. That's basically right on par what we had the week prior to. So we're starting to see that consistency of new homes coming on the market. New contracts written at 467, kind of consistent in what happened. Yes, honey. Teddy Grahams in just a minute. So, with the number of contracts written, we're still seeing that activity going up. I had a mastermind meeting last Friday. And kind of that's what us as agents are seeing. We're seeing the market pick up a little bit, obviously with the time of year. And then sold homes 350 over the last 7 days. So we got that rocking and rolling for those happy new homeowners. Let's take a 30,000 foot view here, what's going on, and pull it up here just a second. So it just pulls up for everybody. So kind of this 30,000 foot view thing, I think I've said it before, doesn't really change a whole lot, but it's a good idea to get a good perspective of what's going on out there. So we're just over 2,600 homes in the Omaha and Lincoln MLS, narrowing that down, kind of the Omaha metro area, Douglas Sarpy County, about 1,542. We were 1,541 last week, and then it was funny, with the week before that, we were 1,542 again. So we've literally hovered in that market, but we've seen when you take that number and you break it down to that previous graph where we had 520, 467, it's kind of one in, one out. So on this, you would look, oh, the market's not really moving at all. But when you look at that previous graph, you see that we had 520 come in, 467 go out, go under contract. That's the market moving. But this, 30,000 foot view doesn't look like it's, doing a whole lot. Just like when you're flying over, you look down on the road, doesn't look like anything's moving, but you get down on the interstate level and cars are going 80 miles an hour out there. So existing homes, we're at 611. So we've seen that number tick up. We've seen new construction drop down a little bit. So those homes are coming off the market. I've seen a handful of builders, giving concessions on their existing inventory. So the spec homes, offering to pay, closing cost or buy down the rate or anything like that. So we're seeing that. So months of inventory, we're at 2.4. Anything below 3 months of inventory is deemed the seller's market. 3 to 6 months, about a neutral market. 6 and above, it's kind of deemed a buyer's market. So average sold price, kind of same as last week at 4.1% increase from this time last year. So we're still seeing some appreciation moving up. Obviously, cost of goods and all that stuff is going up as well. So, but let's see here. I think that's what we got for what's going on in the market. So let's jump in here with Russ. I know I saw the interest rates tick up over this last week a little bit, kind of got above that 7% mark. So we'll touch base with him, see how what he's seeing on his end. So how are we doing, Russ?
Doing pretty well, Mark. As we've talked pretty much every week, mortgage rates move up and down a little bit, but the trend is really what we're following here. Over the last several weeks, we've seen a trifecta of better than expected economic news, which is why we're seeing this uptick in rates. The unemployment numbers, the employment report showed more new jobs created than expected. Last week's inflation numbers were a little bit better than expected, and also retail sales numbers were stronger than expected. And all three of those things are expansionary, and that typically would lead the Federal Reserve Bank to feel like that's inflationary. And so what we've seen happen as a result is there are expectations now that it may be a little bit later in the year that the Fed starts to reduce rates, and the markets respond to that. So that's where we see long-term bond prices maybe move downwards a little bit as they have in the last week or so, and that moves mortgage yields up and mortgage rates rise as a result. Again, the longer-term trend is we are going to see a slowdown unless we have something really weird and unexpected happen. Certainly, we're watching what's happening in the Middle East. That escalates. Typically, we have a flight to quality where money leaves stocks that are more risky and goes into safe havens like bonds and cash, and that can actually work well for mortgage rates, but we don't know where that's going to go. So strictly looking at what data we do have, we're still hoping and expecting that later this year we'll see improved rates. But having said that, and we've talked about this before, Mark, if we see rates come down, we're going to see home prices move upwards even faster than they are right now. Your previous graph showed 4% year over year increase in the average home sale price. If we see rates drop, that number will probably go up. So just be aware of it. For those of you who wanted to buy your first home, get out there now and buy at today's price as opposed to what it might be down the road. And for those of you looking to move up, get your current home sold and get as much as you can now before you move into that new home that will be more expensive, I expect, next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's all good information. So appreciate everyone jumping on and listening to us today. Like I said, if you have questions, comments, I mean, love the comments on our YouTube page there. So we can we can bring that up here on our video. I did respond to that obviously on the YouTube, in the comment side of it. So, but reach out to us, via our phone, 290-8936 for Russ, 672-7670 for myself. Happy to answer any questions, jump on a Zoom with you, meet you in person, and get you coached up and educated on what it takes to buy and sell a house or even investment properties in that regard. So until next week, we'll see everybody later and have a great weekend, and see you later.